You know, sometimes when you're starting to feel a little down, maybe you just finished a really sad movie, or maybe the last book you read had a pretty dark ending. I'm here to tell you that all you really need is a 13-episode anime about 4 girls going to Antarctica to feel something again. But that's enough with my rant on capitalism. A Place Further Than the Universe is a slice-of-life adventure anime produced by Madhouse that was released back in 2018. The story follows a group of 4 girls, Kimari, Shirase, Hinata, and Yuzuki, who at first don't know each other but become friends due to their similar goals of going to Antarctica. This takes them on an expedition around the world, and the girls grow closer and closer as friends, learning to empathize and cope with their past traumas on their adventure that helps them discover more about both the world, each other, and most of all, themselves. Now, this was a show I got into pretty, late to the party, since I'm making this video about 5 years after it came out. But you know what? Fashionably late is what we all like, ain't it? But in my late adventure with the show, I've gained quite the soft spot for it. Obviously, everyone likes a cute, short and sweet little show about cute girls doing silly things, and while that is certainly what this show is, there's a lot more to it beneath the surface. I really want to make an iceberg pun, but I'll refrain from doing so in order to keep my professionalism that a lot of you for some reason think I have. The show does in fact have very happy, make you smile moments, but the show also has a lot of heavy and emotional moments. Sometimes it can get a little darker than your typical slice of life story. That's not to say that this is a dark show, because it isn't, but it does lean into some more sad and emotional territory than other shows in its genre might like to. There isn't much of an overlaying plot to the series. A lot of the show is just the girls hanging out and getting to know more about each other and the places they're visiting. I mean, their goal is to go to Antarctica, and that goal is accomplished with many more episodes to go left. So then, what story are they really telling? What is this show really about? Well, my answer would be this, and I will explain more in detail what I mean by this. A Place Further Than the Universe is a story about empathy. It's a story about understanding and overcoming your trauma. It's about not letting one thing define your life and instead inspiring yourself to move forward and achieve the greater things you aspire for. Each of our 4 titular characters come from relatively different backgrounds. Kimari lives a pretty regular life that she believes is way too mundane to be worth it and wants to achieve something greater so her high school years don't go to waste. While Yuzuki has a successful life ahead of her, her young career has led her to isolation, and all she truly desires is to have people she can call her friends that don't only like her for her fame. Hinata appears wise and outgoing, but really ends up appearing as the most afraid and vulnerable out of all of them, and abandoned her school life after certain events drove her to feeling betrayal and loneliness. And last but not least, Shirase still copes with the loss of her mother and puts all her time and effort into going to Antarctica to prove every doubter she has wrong, and to see the place further than the universe that her mother loved so much, in hopes of both understanding her passion and to lessen the sour taste of the place she has had since she lost her. All 4 characters have different issues and backgrounds, but they all share the common goal of wanting to go to Antarctica. However, they also share a deeper goal within. They all want something new. This is very on the nose with Kimari, but a lot more subtle with the others. They all want something different from where their lives have usually gone, and believe Antarctica will spark that change in one way or another. This does end up happening, but not because of the location itself, but the people they went there with, as the events they go through in Antarctica only affect them because of the fact they did it together. It's not about the destination, it's about the journey. Has never been more clear of a message than it is here. After all, as said earlier, the show doesn't really have an end goal, it just wants you to enjoy the ride. A big theme with the characters in this story is overcoming your trauma. Yuzuki is a child star who can't live a normal life, not even at home. Hinata was backstabbed by the only people she ever got remotely close with and has kept her feelings hidden ever since. And Shirase is heading to the very place that took her mother away from her. The true reason these girls go here is deeper than just wanting to see the Arctic. It's about gaining closure. Through going to a place like this with this group, Yuzuki finally knows what it's like to have a friend. Hinata learns to finally open herself up to others, and Shirase is able to come to terms with her mother's disappearance and move forward. There's a specific quote from her mother's friend in episode 12, the episode where Shirase finally gets the closure she needs, and this character says this: "I came to Antarctica because I latched onto the idea she wanted me to come. At the end of the day, those ideas we latch onto aren't enough to motivate us, but when we run around on the injustices of reality, They're the only things that can break through, make the impossible possible, and allow us to proceed on. I love this quote a lot because of how true it speaks to Shirase as a character and to the entirety of this show. She's entirely latched onto the thought that her mother is waiting for her in Antarctica, despite knowing the truth about her already. But despite that truth, she continues telling herself this thought, and it pushes herself forward to keep going forward. At first she begins to doubt what it was all for, but after gaining the smallest possible memento of her, she's able to truly let go of her grief and live for herself without letting her loss weigh her down anymore. She is a brilliant character, and while she technically isn't the main protagonist of the story, her character arc makes up for a lot of the emotional crux of the story. She is a wonderful example of empathetic characterization, and one that's very quickly become a favorite of my own. Or maybe it's just because I have a type, who knows. Every character in the main four and even some of the side characters are great in their own way, and despite the short episode count, all of them get the necessary time and development that they deserve. I especially like Yuzuki's arc about her learning to become used to having friends despite not really knowing what friendship actually means. It's both a cute and uplifting little arc that made me feel really happy for her by the end. Kimari and Hinata are fantastic too, of course. Hinata probably has the most subtle arc out of them all, since her problems are never really specifically stated until we get to that point of closure for her. And obviously, Kimari is the driving force of the story. The show never feels like it's closing in on itself or rushing things. It's patient and takes its time as it needs to, and is able to make most of its story beats pay off. I would say the plotline about Kimari and her best friend earlier on wasn't exactly the best, but it's just about the only time in the story I could really say that was the case. It's not really that it was a bad episode, but more so one that I didn't care for as much, since her friend was a character that I never really felt any real care or sympathy for, since we never really got to know her. It's probably the weakest episode in the show, but it definitely wasn't a super low point for me. Every other episode is fantastic too, so it's not too much of a negative. My favorite is definitely episode 12, the one that I mentioned before about Shirase, but the finale and the 2 episodes leading up to episode 12 are in close contention as well. The last 4 episodes of the show definitely elevate it to even greater heights than it had already reached, and that's saying something because I was enjoying it all the way through, besides that 1 episode. Also, with a show as focused on travel and locations as it is, I have to say I was very satisfied with the artwork and animation here. There's a lot of wide landscape shots that are very well lit and colored, and overall the lighting in the show in general is very impressive. Especially in the last 3 or so episodes, there are some shots that look fantastic visually, either because of both the great compositing and lighting, or because of the narrative context behind the shots. Examples include the Aurora scene, which is teased in promo art and in both the opening and ending, or something more short and simple, such as the girls singing along at the top of their vehicle while the sun sets. People are gonna call me a nerd for this section because, I mean, no one gives a fuck about lighting, but you know what? Being a nerd is my hobby and I get money for it, so who's really laughing? The nerd making this video or the dweeb watching it? I'm sorry, I didn't mean that. I really didn't mean that, I'm sorry. A Place Further Than the Universe is a brilliant show worth checking out regardless of if you're into these types of stories. It is the definition of short and sweet and has enough cuteness and emotional power to it that makes it stand out from the rest. It doesn't do anything specifically new or groundbreaking, but it does all the things that you're familiar with way better than a lot of other shows. Its empathetic character work as well as the creation team's clear love for exploration makes it a joy to sit through that never once gets tiring. And it's a show that has very quickly skyrocketed up my list as a very big favorite of mine. I recommend it heavily and hope you're all able to find something to enjoy here. It won't be difficult, trust me. And with that being said, that's all I have to talk about in this video. I have some more movie reviews coming out soon, so stay tuned for that. I also have some other anime and manga related content coming out as well. If you're interested in either of those and you're not subscribed, then please subscribe to the channel. And if you did enjoy this video, make sure to leave a like and comment down below what other anime I should check out and cover next. And with all that out of the way, I'll see y'all next time. Have a good day.